Mike Curtis, Morgan Parks, welcome to Life Today.
Good to be here.
So who are you guys? What's the relationship here? You kind of, I don't know, do you favor each other a little bit?
I'm prettier.
Is that what it is?
Age before beauty. He's the oldest.
Tell everybody who you guys are, as far relationship-wise.
Brothers.
Brothers. How long have you known that?
2 years. 2 years.
We're going to have to get into that story a little bit here. But first of all, I want people to understand kind of what you do, what you've done, because I think they'll relate to that a little bit. Michael Anthony Curtis is the name in the credits. Real small on the albums, right?
Yes.
They put the writer's credits
underneath the stars.
Underneath the stars. Well, which stars have you written songs for?
Randy Travis. Randy and I actually have 40-something copyrights together. And then Marty Raven of Shenandoah and Blake Shelton, Josh Turner. Just a lot of country artists, some of the gospel artists out there. I had a couple of Dove nominations, but man, just trying to honor God with what I do, man.
I know, but I want people to hear a little bit of your background because it's cool. What song that you've written or co-written has gone to the highest on the charts? Do you know that?
Ironically, it was a gospel song called "Get Up in Jesus' Name."
Who sang that?
Several people.
Okay.
Leanne Womack, Marty Raven, the Freemans, Gordon Moten, the Gaithers.
Wow.
Yeah. So and got a Dove nomination, so I was like, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. Your new song that you sing, because you do sing as well, it's called Stained Glass.
Yeah.
Walk me through the lyrics of that, and then I want you to kind of unpack that one.
I was driving by the church on Sunday, and from the outside looking in, there are those in there and those out here dealing with their sin. The rainbow-colored windows made me realize at last, no matter which side of the wall you're on, we are all stained glass. I don't come here for religion. That's not what it's about. We're all pilgrims on a journey, trying to get life figured out. Some come with broken pieces, but for some the die is cast. But we're all part of God's mosaic, and we're all stained glass. And the chorus says, but you are welcome in our Father's house, no matter what you've done. There's only one that got it perfect. That's God's only Son. He'll give you a brighter future and forgive you of your past. Friend, you're not in this alone, because we are all stained glass.
Stained glass is broken glass that's put back together, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Morgan, what do you think of when you hear that?
It's just amazing. We talked about that. We talked about the theology behind it when we first started talking about it, and we sang it together. And it has a major message. If you learn a lot about grace and deal with it, it just tells the story of grace. That's all we are, is all stained glass.
So you sing a lot too?
He does.
Yeah. And okay, we got to back up a little bit. We'll finish out some of the stained glass because this is a great story too. Yeah. So 2 years you've known that you're brothers. What happened? How come you didn't know for, how old are you, 40, 45?
I'll be 56 in September.
I'm being nice.
I got money.
What happened?
We both have similar yet very different backgrounds. And since I was on the show with James in the 90s, I found out who my father was, got to know my father, and found out that there was another one out there like me that was illegitimate, born out of wedlock. And so every time I'd meet somebody, I just wonder is that my brother, is that my sister? And then a miracle. It's nothing but a miracle. As soon as Morgan and I laid eyes on each other, we knew instantly. But so
y'all just met? How'd you meet?
He's going to tell you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm a minister outside of Memphis in a town called Collierville. And there's a local, the biggest funeral home in Memphis. One of the guys that worked there just came up and told me one day, he says, you do the most earthy funerals. Could you be the guy we call if there's a family that wants a minister at the service but doesn't have one, we can call you. So I thought about it and I said, well, sure, I'd do that. How often could that happen?
Oh, no.
378 times in 3.5 years.
And, someone asked me the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, so it happens all the time. But in doing this, he and I clicked, this guy that worked at this funeral home, and we kept talking back and forth, and he knew some people that went to church at my church, and they were all at a Christmas party, and my name came up. And this friend told him, he said, "You've got to hear Morgan's adoption story. It's pretty amazing." So the next time we were at the funeral home getting ready to do a 94-year-old woman's funeral, he came up to me and he said, "I want to hear this story, your adoption story. I heard it's amazing." I said, "It's kind of amazing in its own." I'm talking about meeting my birth mother when I was 18 and all that went with it. And he said, "Where all of this did this happen?" I said, "A little small town in Tennessee. If you sneezed, you'd miss it." He goes, "Where is it?" And I named the town. And when I did, he turned as white as the inside of your coffee cup. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "That's where I'm from." And I said, "No, you're not." He said, "That's exactly where I'm from. My family's still there." And I said, "You've got to be kidding me." So he asked me all the people I knew, all my birth mother's family. We kept on, and finally he goes, "Who else do you know in this town?" I said, "Nobody. I've never been there." And he goes, "Well, who was your birth father?" And I said, he had this job in this town. And he said, "What was his name?" When I said his name, again, white as the inside of your coffee cup. And I said, "What's wrong now?" And he said, "That's my uncle." And I said, "You're kidding me." He goes, "No, I'm not." I said, and I kind of gave details that he would know if it really was. And sure enough, it was. And he looked at me, he said, "You're my cousin." So we both were crying like 2-year-olds, and we immediately had to walk in and do this poor woman's funeral where the funeral director and the minister are both sobbing like children. So immediately within, 3 days, I started getting bloop, 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 friend request on Facebook. It was all the half brothers and sisters that came out of nowhere on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
One of them was him. And we got our cousin exchanged our phone numbers, and I think within the next 4 or 5 days we called each other. And then it was this, getting together. We both had these little things. We both looked somewhat similar. We've both been musicians since we were 12 or 13.
Music or ministry.
Yeah, and it's just been and immediately
You felt like brothers.
absolutely. Immediately we
just-
hit it all.
But for me, knowing that there was somebody else out there, when I got the call, that the quote to me was, "We found the other you," and it was like, it's just breathtaking.
Yeah.
So that'll be the next song on this next album. We found the other you.
Okay, now this came at a good time for you,
Yeah.
because part of what Stained Glass came out of, and I think, I'm wondering, you'll have to tell me, some of the healing that's come in your life in the last few years since meeting Morgan.
I actually got to know my dad. We lost him, and this was around 2007. I went through a divorce. Our church I was involved with broke up, and I learned, it's like when you go through, if a spouse dies, it seems like they'll come and pray for you and bring you a meal or something.
Sure.
But going through a divorce, it's almost like, "Okay, brother, I'm gonna pray for you, but I'm gonna pray for you from over here." Yeah. So I don't know. I felt like I'd lost everything. And the music business started to tank because they were giving music away at the time. All of a sudden, music was free to everybody.
Yeah.
So between that and what had happened to me, I'd hit a wall. And instead of running to God, I was mad at him. Like, "Hey, how can I serve you all those years?" And this happened to me. And so out of that, I found the hardest person to forgive Randy was me.
For what?
Just turning my back on, I didn't necessarily turn my back on God, but I ran from him and I was mad at him. It's like,
You live up to your own expectations
Yes.
of yourself.
yeah, and felt like that I'd failed. I didn't know what I'd done wrong, but it was me. It was my fault. And then I came out to Texas and was working, and Randy Travis had a stroke. I was working with him, and I don't know, it just seemed like one thing after another. And I'd moved back home to be with my kids. My daughters were getting to high school, and I was at this church one day, and worship started. And this big, like 20-foot stained glass window, I'm standing up there just weeping, broken. And it's like Daddy went, "Come home." And I was at Ricky Skaggs' studio. Ricky's a buddy of mine, and he just like said, that coat you're wearing's heavy, son. Take it off. Take it off. God's forgiven you. And I don't know, it was just a full circle thing for me. And then the Holy Spirit gave me that song. And I've just seen it touch a lot of people.
Yeah.
All these healing things started, and I met one of the most amazing people.
She's sitting over here on camera.
Yeah. And anyway, I don't know, brother. I mean, these are tears of joy. They're not, because it was like God just started restoring things that had been so broken.
Yeah.
And when I met him, it's like, wow, full circle.
Grace on grace.
Grace on grace. There's a song.
Yeah. I think that one's been written. So if somebody's watching this and they're like, man, I'm relating to this guy because I felt like I tried to do everything right and things fell apart. And I wonder, God, what did I do to deserve all this stuff? Or maybe they're like you in the sense that they drifted away from God and now they're feeling a little guilty, like maybe, God's mad at them. What do you say? Either one of you, what do you say to that person?
Well, I mean, for me, that's exactly what I felt. And the one I could not forgive for the longest was myself. And because I felt like I failed God. I mean, the one who died for me, the one who I'd been serving, I just felt like I had let him down. But I'm telling you, and I would say this to anybody, when you think about the two brothers, one stayed at the church house, one stayed at the farm, and he worked and he worked and he worked and he worked, and the other one just blew his inheritance on prostitutes, on righteous living, and was in a pigsty working for a pig keeper, eating the pig's food. He said, hey, my father's servants have it better than I've got.
Yeah.
But when you sit there and you think about his father saw him from afar off.
Yeah, yeah.
And with the sin stain all over him, came, said, come home, son.
Yeah, we'd call it the prodigal son, but it's really about the father, and it's a father who's waiting on his kids to come back so he can throw a party.
Yeah.
And you got the better brother than the one in that story because he hadn't resented you.
No.
I was fixing to ask him which one was I.
Which one were you? That's awesome.
But for me, it was different. As different as our raisings were, and as different as everything was. I met my birth mother when I was 18, and we've had a wonderful relationship for 41 years. And my adopted parents were in no way upset that I seeked her out, and that she had kids, and we've all gotten along, and we've all been kind of, for 41 years, all raised together. So if you look at the definition of grace, and just when you think you have the definition down pat, I thought that was a pretty grace-filled life, to be raised well and meet your birth mother. All that goes well. She had a husband. He accepted me, her kids, and all. We all got along. And then all of a sudden, when I'm 50 years old, then all of a sudden this happens, and you realize that when I thought God was giving me all this grace, he wasn't through, and I was already not anticipating anything else.
Man, what great encouragement. Thank you guys for sharing your story, coming by live today and sharing it with us and everybody watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Will.